Chandra, and I am one of the core facilitators. And I wanted to hop on today to specifically talk about something that I know a lot of us on the personal growth journey, transformation journey are struggling with when it comes to growing and evolving as a person, and that is self compassion. I know for myself and many others, self compassion is something that we can struggle with, something you might want more of in your life. And part of the reason why self compassion can be so hard is because for most of us, this wasn't modeled or given to us when we were growing up. So, for example, maybe growing up when you got an F on a test or made a mistake, rather than being met with compassion, instead you were met with harshness or criticism, made to feel bad or wrong about the mistakes that you made. Or maybe you were met with compassion, but the primary caregivers in your life, they struggled with self-compassion. So even if you made a mistake and they might have said, "Oh, it's okay, honey," or giving you compassion and try to support you in your suffering, they didn't do that for themselves. So self-compassion was never really taught or modeled for you. And so self-compassion can be really hard for a lot of us and something most of us struggle with, especially in a culture and a society that generally values achievement and, yeah, what we can do or what we can achieve rather than meeting ourselves with compassion. So it's not always easy for us. So what does it look like instead? If you're struggling with self-compassion, what does this actually look like in your life? Well, what it might look like is you might have some of these beliefs about self-compassion, like that if you were to be compassionate with yourself, maybe that might mean that your standards that you're trying to hold yourself still will lower. Or perhaps if you're compassionate to yourself, maybe it will make you into a person you don't want to be, or maybe it won't get you to become the person that you want to become, right? Like if you make a mistake and you're really working on not being a people pleaser, like that's something I'm working on. What if I'm compassionate for myself and towards myself? Would that mean then that I can't really grow and evolve into the person I want to be because I'm letting myself off the hook, right? So you might have beliefs or fears like that. Or when you make a mistake in your life, what you notice is you meet yourself with harshness or you berate yourself. Maybe you replay that mistake over and over in your mind. And the idea of meeting yourself with kindness just either feels foreign or feels really difficult. And so, yeah, for many of us, self compassion is difficult. Mom, and I'm a mom of newborn twins. And, something I noticed that came up recently was it actually goes up often where, I often make mistakes as a mom. I don't feel like I show up as good enough. And so, an example might be my girls wake up from their nap early and I notice that resentment arises in me or anger or frustration or anxiety. And if I, my first initial instinct, because self compassion can be hard for me, is to go, no, don't feel that way, or to make myself feel like I'm a bad mother because I feel those feelings, or to stew in guilt over feeling those feelings and thinking, what's wrong with me for feeling these feelings? And versus what would self compassion look like, right? Self compassion, if these are some of the feelings that are arising for me, I'm probably feeling over cold and really hard. So, if I am suffering, what is it I might be needing in this moment, right? What might I be needing so I can show up and become the mom that I want to be? So, you can hear the difference between that harsher inner critic that might be my default and instead meeting myself with compassion. And so, yeah, for many of us, meeting ourselves with compassion is difficult, right? Anytime we're human, we make a mistake, we feel difficult feelings, or we suffer, our first instinct is to, analyze, be critical of ourselves, be harsh with ourselves, which makes us question our inherent goodness, our inherent worth. And the reason why we do this is because for many of us, we think, right, that if we're hard on ourselves, that's what will help us grow and change. we struggle with self-compassion, if we instead like move into and continue to be harsh with ourselves? Well, what's at stake is honestly is our general sense of happiness. If you struggle to be really compassionate with yourself, and instead are harsher with yourself or really give in to that inner critic, then generally your life will be filled with more self criticism, more anxiety, more depression or sadness, more frustration, or more numbness. And what's also at stake is, what research is finding more and more is that actually self criticism is not the answer to evolving and growing and shifting and changing. It doesn't lead to any sustained change. Yes, maybe shaming or guilting ourselves into change might work in the short term, but really any long term change and evolution never really happens unless we have self compassion. So your problem never gets solved. You might still make the same mistakes over and over again, and then continues. And this also impacts our relationships typically because the harsher we are on ourselves, that often leads to disconnect with other people. Where if we struggle with self compassion, most of us also struggle to receive kindness and compassion from others as well. And so, again, what science and research is suggesting is that actually the key to a happier life, to more equanimity in your life, to being able to deal with the ups and downs that life brings, and to actually have sustained change and growth in your life is self compassion. That is the key. So, yeah, if you want to evolve, it's going to come through self compassion and not self criticism. And so, and the reason why behind this is because when we can be compassionate with ourselves, we can turn towards and face any mistake that we've made, any suffering, and we never lose sight of our inherent goodness, our inherent worth. And so rather than going into shame or beating ourselves up or ignoring the mistake that we made, instead we can face it full on with compassion and then see, what do I need so that I can grow and move forward. So, how do you become more self compassionate, right? This is a thing I know I struggle with, a lot of people in my life struggle with. So, how can you actually grow and evolve in this? Well, first things first is recognizing all the things that get in the way of self compassion. So you get to notice that inner critic when it rises, when you're being harsh with yourself, when you're being critical with yourself, and notice any fears you have that arise around being compassionate with yourself, any beliefs you have. For example, are you someone that believes if you were to be compassionate with yourself, that maybe that would make you into a weaker person or make you look weak? So, first is noticing everything that gets in the way of self compassion. And then the second key piece is practicing self compassion. And one great way to do that is through compassion meditations. Because also, what science and research is finding is that compassion is something that is inherent to all of us and something that you can grow over time. Just like you'd go to the gym to work out particular muscle groups, you can practice compassion meditations that actually build up your capacity to be self compassionate. So, that's a little bit of how you can build more self compassion in your life and therefore build more happiness and more ease in your life and more change and growth. And so, if that's something you are interested in, if you know you're someone that wants more self compassion in your life, or maybe wants more compassion in general for yourself and being able to receive compassion from others, or engaging and giving compassion to others, we have our upcoming Brave Heart program, which is an 8-week virtual compassion meditation course. And this program is all designed to help build up and cultivate your own compassion and especially help build up your own self compassion. So, details of this course are in the link or in the comments below. And so, feel free to check it out and let us know if you have any questions. And either way, wishing you a beautiful journey in your road towards self compassion.